The views, information, and opinions expressed during the following program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent the views of Access Communications, its representatives, or its employees.
Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting of October 24th. We'll call the meeting to order. First off, under presentations, we have none this evening. Could we have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda with the omission of 2A? That will not be happening tonight, please. Thank you, Councillor Cernak. Seconded by Councillor Walliser. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, could we have a motion, please, for the minutes of the council meeting held on October 11th of 22? Councillor Frank, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Vroba. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have the GFL CART report for September of 22. Could we have a motion, please, to accept that? Thank you, Councillor Cernak. Seconded by Councillor Ford. Any further questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Vroba. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. I was just going to mention, I had someone concerned who didn't get their cart picked up on the last two stat holidays. Has there been any changes with our contract with them that they don't pick up on stat holidays?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe, okay. City Manager, they continue to pick up on stats.
From my understanding, yes.
Okay, so I just encouraged them to reach out today to GFL and basically said in the future, don't wait till you've missed on two. Literally just call each and every time your cart is missed and they'll come back, because GFL has been really good about that with anyone else I've talked to. If somebody gets even missed on their own street, they'll come back the next day and grab it. So
exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Vroba. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under written reports of committees, we have the Southeast Transportation Planning Committee minutes of September 20th. Do we have a motion for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ford. Seconded by Councillor Frank. Any further questions? Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Worship.
And we actually, Councillor Walliser.
We traveled on that highway this weekend, and there was quite a few dangerous spots on it where they've put on the black top and they have not painted lines. So especially when there's sleet and rain and now snow will be coming soon. And I don't know if it's up to us or if we want to give that to Councillor Clark and just ask him to find out if we can get the Department of Highways out there to paint the lines, especially in the parts where they've just kind of put, you know, the long stretch of black top and there's no lines.
Okay, I know they have a truck that does the lines and it's probably weather dependent, but we can definitely check on that, Councillor Vroba.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Next, under executive reports, we have from the Leisure Services Manager, the Affinity Score Clock Logistics. City Manager, did you want to maybe answer any questions on these? I guess I can quickly go over. At the request of the City Manager, update is provided. The supplier, IKS, out of Regina, have suggested a 5-day window is required to complete the project, and that's taking the old clock down, putting the new one up. Currently, the main clock components are in China. I don't believe it's left yet. It's being anticipated to be shipped October, November of this year to the Port of Vancouver and then to Regina. A guaranteed shipping date has not been provided. Despite multiple efforts, currently there is no agreement in place for the purchasing of the old clock, but I know IKS continues to look on our behalf, and they seem pretty positive that they'll be able to find a purchaser. There's potential interests in Alberta. Nothing yet has been solidified, but they continue to look. Now, Affinity Place is fully booked. this season. As you can imagine, with all of the curling that we have coming up, there's little room to maneuver the scheduling without significant impact to the users. We're aware of these impacts, and we are committed to find the best solution for the users and patrons. So the option 1 is to plan for a May 15th to 31st, 2023 installation after the ice is removed and there is reduced demand on the building. This season is very challenging to juggle the competing interests for this facility, considering all of the events we have planned. Implementing this option will provide more time to find not only a potential buyer of the existing clock, but then we're not in such a tight time frame to put the new one up. So it also gives IKS the opportunity to fully inspect Affinity's clock hoist system and building mechanics at a time when we intend to have lifts in the building. So those would be separate lifts, probably propane power that we'd have in the building to help out with the installation of this. And then during the curling event in January, February, inspecting systems in advance will allow IKS plenty of time to deal with potential issues prior to mid-May, which is the planned new date for the install. Option 2, two-phase installation procedure. Now this, it's an option, but everything has to fall into place. IKS and the city would be prepared to install the clock in a two-stage approach. So anyone that was at Centennial Cup, they would remember that temporary clock we had against the wall. So they would come in, put that clock back up over a 3-night duration. The operation would take place from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. over 3 consecutive nights, again, to try to reduce the impact. The times floated were between December 10th and February 1st. But again, everything has to click for this to happen. So probably rather than taking the chance that there's not going to be any issues, which is, you know, usually we do have some issues when you put something of that magnitude in place, I think the best would be to fall back on option 1. So then again, just to finish on option 2, phase 2 would be after they take the old one down, install a new clock over a 2-day window. Sometime that would have to be mutually agreeable after phase 1 up to February. There are risks with option 2 in that the delay may affect the facility user's ability to operate as intended. IKS is optimistic that the procedure will proceed. However, they caution that problems do arise, and we should be prepared for this. They're also supportive of a mid-May installation. The warranty of the new clock will begin once the clock is commissioned. And I know that was a question, so you can rest assured the warranty will start after the new clock is fully in service. The disruption of service is a risk we need to accept if we choose this 2-phase option for installation. With Affinity's existing wiring and mechanics now 11 years old, there is a concern that we may run into issues, and I would agree. So the recommendation coming from Mr. March is to implement option 1, plan for a mid-May 2023 for the reasons outlined in this report. So what's the wish of council? Councillor Ford, then Councillor Frank.
Your Worship, I'll make the motion to stick with option 1. With this clock, we've been told many times, is not a just turn the clock on and press a button and you're good to go. This is going to take some training as well. So having it in December during the Bruins and the Bears season and everything else, I don't think would be a feasible option just for training purposes as well, because it'll just be too cramped, and a May installation will help diminish the potential for mistakes and errors. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Councillor Frank.
Thanks, Your Worship, and I'll second it. My thoughts were similar to Councillor Ford's as well. Just we're not in a rush. Our current clock works just fine. We're all excited for something new and cool in our building, but the risk of potentially being out without a clock or without game time or ice time for our groups is too high, and we don't want to see that. So I think we take our time and get it done in the summer when we have lots of time to get it done. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Frank. Any other comments, concerns? Seeing none, thank you. We have the motion ready for the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under executive reports. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Cernick.
Thank you, Worship. I would actually like to put a motion on the floor regarding the clock. That we start the process to explore our options into hiring an operator for the clock, so that we're kind of ready to go for next year. So,
Okay.
so put that out there.
Okay. Would you maybe could we maybe, with that suggestion, get a report from Rod March for the next meeting, and then we can make a decision as a council what we'd like to do? Could we do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that. Okay, next, under executive reports, we have from the Parks Manager, the dog park trial period has expired. Personally, I haven't heard any issues. City Manager, have you? No?
No concerns to our office.
Okay, thank you. Any members of council heard anything negative? Wow, that's good news. Jacqueline, you haven't heard anything? Good, awesome. Okay. Well, I guess we can say that it's a success. Awesome. What do we need there, City Clerk? Just a motion that? To approve it permanently. Okay. Okay, with that, could we have a motion then, since we've got no issues, to approve it permanently? Thank you, Councillor Frank.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. Yes, I would make the motion to approve it permanently. And, I see in the report there's a few calls of the obvious things, the noise and cleaning up your poop, but I think hopefully the residents have gotten a little bit more used to it, and I know it's a little change, but I think it's been overall a good successful thing, and still encourage the people using it to clean up dog poop. So. Yeah,
thank you. And I know initially when we first put it in, there definitely was some concerns, but have not heard any lately.
My lesson in life at any dog park is, even if it's not your dogs, just clean it up. If we all pitch in a little bit, we'll have beautiful dog parks for the rest of our lives. So just clean it up and turn a blind eye, and we'll all live a good life. It's
okay.
Rainbows and sunshine.
Okay, well, thank you. You're in a very good mood tonight. That's great. Okay, have we got a seconder for that? Councillor Vroba. Okay, ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next, introduction of bylaws. We have none this evening. Under public hearings and reports, we have that zoning bylaw, which we gave first reading to, and we plan on giving second and third to. But tonight, we have this under consideration, so I have to ask, is there anyone in the gallery who wishes to address council on the proposed land development zoning bylaw 2022-2061? I'll give a few seconds. Not seeing any. I see our two friends in the back. They're not moving. They're very happy, very complacent, which is a good sign. Now I'll have to ask again, is there anyone in the gallery who wishes to address council on this particular matter? Second call. Okay, please, City Clerk, noticing that none have come forward, I will ascertain there's no one present in the gallery who wishes to address council on this matter. Okay, moving forward then, under giving notice, we have none this evening. Motions from committee, none this evening. Consideration of bylaws, none this evening. Inquiries, Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Your Worship, but I think our land department manager was interested in speaking on the zoning bylaw.
Oh, I'm
public
sorry.
consultation.
Did you want to speak to that, Rich?
There was a few changes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I
Okay.
need to highlight recommendations for proposed changes during the public hearing, if I could.
Oh, sure.
And I had an inquiry just around 4 o'clock today from SaskTel, which is related to the subject as well.
Oh,
I'd like to
okay.
bring forward, even though it's not in my report, if I could.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So everyone's got the report in front of me. We had some proposed changes that we'd like to make to the text of the bylaw that was dealt with first reading. One was contravention enforcement. I've tried, but I'm getting shut down by the province at every turn. So there's not going to be any way under the bylaw to do violation tickets or anything of that kind, like what city bylaw would do for unsightly yards. We had that with the sign bylaw, and I incorporated it into this text and forgot to take it out. So that's one of the changes.
And if I may, Richard, why would that be?
The Planning and Development Act doesn't allow me any wiggle room at all for enforcement without using courts. For example, if I issue a stop order, in order to enter onto the person's property, if I don't have permission, in order to enforce a stop order, I have to have a court order. In order to issue a fine for a violation of the bylaw, I have to have a court order. For that reason, I'm not issuing stop orders unless it's something of real major impact. So you're not going to see me, I can do the friendly persuasion approach, but if that doesn't work, I'm really reluctant, for example, to issue a stop order for someone making a fence out of wood pellets, because, thousands of dollars in court fees for a fence that would be, but if it's someone, for example, converting a single detached dwelling into a multi-dwelling, without approval, that's something a lot more major impact.
And what would the reason that they would want to make that more difficult and make us go through the courts? What would the reason for that?
It's been that way for a while, for a number of years. The act that's currently in place is from 2007. The sign bylaw that we had before was a separate bylaw, but the province has told us that the sign bylaw has to be physically merged into the overall zoning bylaw. And as part of zoning bylaw, that is the only enforcement mechanism I have. There are some options to co-opt the services of city bylaw on a few of these things, but with most of it, yeah, it's very difficult and expensive process to enforce with someone who's not wanting to comply.
I'm just wondering, would that necessitate us maybe taking that to SUMA, talking to the other cities? I mean, if they feel the same way, that they're frustrated, they have to go to the courts every time they have to deal with an individual case, would that be helpful maybe, or?
Well, that may help. I have talked to other colleagues. Just a month ago, I had my professional association conference in Regina, and I did ask around because I hadn't given up hope yet. That's why I was still in there. And there is frustration all around, yes. But in order to allow for a mechanism like what you have under the City Act for violation tickets and what have you, that would require a change to the actual legislation. I checked today, there's actually a court case with the Court of Appeal in Saskatchewan where a resort community tried to issue a violation ticket under their zoning bylaw, and the judge ruled you don't have that kind of mechanism under the zoning bylaw to do that, and they threw it out. So,
Okay, well,
and
perhaps.
we all know how expensive lawyers can be for things, so.
Yeah, absolutely. It would definitely make it a deterrent, for us, and I would think for most of the other cities as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. What else would you like?
So that was the one. Another one, West Valley Village. Everyone's familiar with that development. One of the components of West Valley Village that was brought in when the land was annexed was the developer at the time called it a motel, but it's more of a dormitory with a separate building for showers and another separate building for washing clothes and what have you. There's no kitchen facilities there or anything like that. It was all zoned historically to the a residential district that didn't allow for any commercial use or accommodations use like a motel. So what I've got a suggestion here is to amend the R5S district, the residential park zoning district, to allow for that kind of a use, but only on that particular property, so that you wouldn't be able to use that district then and then say, okay, I'm going to put a laundromat in the middle of this other place or this other place and have that as automatic approval. One of the reasons brought forward for this is that there is possibly a pending sale for that property, and the landowner expressed that they would like to continue that use.
Okay. Good.
The third one is the property at 1805 3rd Street. That is actually a fourplex, and it's in the inappropriate land use districts, in the R1 land use district. The lowest tier land use district that would allow for it would be the R3 zone, which allows up for fourplexes. I'm not a big fan of spot zoning, but this is an existing use, and it's a fairly modern building for anybody that's familiar with it. So that change would accommodate that building.
What was the address, Richard?
1805 3rd Street. Then we went through the sign regulations, had feedback on that item as well. One was to make it really clear that municipal campaign signage is prohibited on city property during municipal campaigns. Of course, you know, signs saying today's voting day, the voting booth is to the left, that kind of thing would still be fine, but actual, you know, vote Bob, that would be a sign that would be prohibited.
On city property?
On city property, yes. And then another thing that came up since I was amending it, we had a business this summer that had a 7-day sale for something, and they put those feather banners up along the roadway on our land, but that was only going to be for a few days. We had to get special approval of the city manager remembers that in order to accommodate that. So this would actually address that issue as well. Then clarification for realtor open houses and garage sales as to when the signs would have to be taken off. And finally, again, at the request of city administration, a liability clause to be put in. So basically, if someone posts a sign in an inappropriate location on Boulevard and there's a accident that results from it, that this would add weight to the city position that they're not liable for it.
Especially if we didn't put it up, right?
Yeah, and definitely if it's put up without our permission and not in accordance with our rules. Like our rules, we do have setbacks from traffic control devices and from intersections, but I haven't seen it here too bad, but I've worked in communities where people attach realtor open houses to stop signs, and you can just imagine if somebody got an accident and said, I didn't know there's a stop sign, it said open house. You know, at least there we would have a little bit more backing. And then finally, the item regarding Wellock Road, which I guess will be addressed briefly in closed session here. Depending on what happens there, if council's okay with these proposals, we could advance to a revised document brought forward for consideration of further readings later on this year. As I mentioned, this isn't in my report formally, but I received a call today, late this afternoon, from SaskTel, and they're looking at upgrading some cell phone towers in the city, and some of them are in residential areas. So what I did, it wasn't addressed at all under the except for the urban holding or agricultural areas where Rogers has their big tower. under the existing bylaw, it wasn't addressed too well. But what I've done, the current bylaw allows for cellular tower to be in most every land use district except for the residential ones. From my experience, quite often there's problems with having towers in the residential areas, at least historically. That said, the technology for these towers has improved greatly over the last 20, 30 years. They've gone to the unipole or monopole construction, that kind of thing. SaskTel currently has 3 towers in the city in residential areas, and they're looking at refurbishing them and maybe increasing the height of them. They're about 15 meters tall right now, and they're looking at moving them up to maybe 30 meters later on. From my perspective, where I've run into conflicts between landowners and cell phone towers, if it isn't the visual, because the landowner is directly across the fence from the cell phone tower, typically it's the flashing navigation light on the top of the tower. Those navigation lights, SaskTel gave me the updated Transport Canada guidelines. Those navigation lights are not required until you exceed 60 meters in height above grade on your tower in an urban area. So a potential fix which would accommodate SaskTel and our other operators would be to clarify the provisions of our zoning bylaw that we would allow as a discretionary use, so that would be through council and you'd have the ability to say no. As a discretionary use, cell phone towers that are under the 60-meter limit within residential areas. If someone wants to put a tower up that's in excess of 60 meters, they'd have to jump through some extra hoops, such as amending the zoning bylaw. And then
So Richard, you feel your direction would be as long as it's under 60 meters, you'd be okay with?
I think it's something that you could consider. Excuse me, sorry. You still have the ability to say no. The other thing too, related to this, I'm not sure if anyone council's dealt with cell phone towers during their time on council here before. These are governed by Transport Canada, and for quite a few decades, it was basically just as a courtesy that they would even contact the municipality, because the ultimate arbiter for these proposals is Transport Canada. However, in the last number of years, Transport Canada has been more agreeable to upholding, negative reviews from municipalities if a municipality didn't want a tower in a certain location. But really, we're more of a referral agency than anything else on these cases. So that's a consideration.
Okay, so we have one cell phone tower on McDonald Road. We have one at the cemetery. Where's the other one?
They didn't give me the locations. I know we have
Okay.
one on, we want to have one
That's
at Hillside
McDonald.
Park.
Yeah.
There's one there. I'm not sure who holds that one.
Hillside Park?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just SaskTel has 3. I imagine the other providers will have more. G5 technology as well, they said they'd like to have the towers closer to the customer. So even though we're fairly flat on a prairie here, I'm not sure with G5 whether having a tall tower like Rogers is going to be satisfactory for urban areas.
Okay, interesting.
So this would accommodate that while still giving homeowners the strength of being able to, if they really don't like a proposal, to force it to go through bylaw amendments. That gives them an extra public forum to make their case, but it also accommodates what may be regarded as more reasonable requests from the different cell phone providers.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
That's my
Any
report.
questions or comments from members of council? Okay, seeing none, thank you. And you are going to incorporate these changes for the second and third reading?
I can, at the direction of council, yes, if you're in favor
Okay,
of
I
them,
don't see
yes.
any issues. Councillor Frank?
I guess if you need that recommendation, I would make the recommendation that we go forward with the considerations presented, as well as I do agree with the idea of the cell towers being no more than 60 meters in residential areas. So that would be my, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Cernick? Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. There you go, Rich. And sorry about that. You're so quiet. You just sit down like a little mouse. I never noticed you'd even moved.
You called me the park manager.
Well, in this city, you have to wear several hats, my friend.
Yeah.
Okay, back to inquiries. Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to point out that between October 28th and October 30th, the Tourism Estevan Facebook page has a list of all the fun Halloween events that are being offered. I think the Bruins, the
Trail of Terror.
Trail of Terror from the co-op, and then the Hoppers having a party. And so all of that stuff that's happening in the city is being listed, actually.
Did you
Jacqueline
say
and her
Greg
team.
Hofford is having a party?
No, I said the Hopper.
Oh, the Hopper.
The
I'm
Hopper.
sorry. I'm sorry. I want to go to that one.
Don't be giving out his address on the camera. The other thing is, I was just wondering, City Manager, if we could get a report, or maybe if we could have Rod come to our next meeting and just give an idea of where we're at with our benches, the garbage cans, poop bags, that kind of thing on the pathway system. And I noticed that there was a lot of sticks going up on the pathways. So I was thinking, is that for snow removal? Okay. So I thought maybe just hopefully kids don't go around, no one pulls them out. But yeah, I know we're all getting ready for winter. Can hardly wait.
And now the police have a vehicle, that they can go on the pathways if there's some shenanigans and arrest people. And boy, is that ever cute. We're all going to take turns hunting with it, but it'll still be in good shape. It looks really cute.
Trust me, I've walked those pathways. There's a few times going up some of those hills that I think, thank God, we have a rescue vehicle in this town.
Yes, it's true.
I might need one.
It's a four-wheel drive. It's got lights, hazard lights, the whole night.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Willies.
Thank you, Your Worship. As the member on the Woodlawn Parks Board, the mayor did ask that I bring some additional information forward. It sounds like he's quite interested in the Trail of Terror being hosted at the Preddy Trails, starting at Rotary Park. So that is on Friday, October 28th. Sensory sensitive and family friendly from 5 until 6. Less scary, great for young families from 6 until 7. And then they call it Enter at Your Own Risk If You Dare from 7:30 until 9. It includes photo booths, spook stations, kids games, trick-or-treats, hot chocolate and hot dogs. So all of that information is available on the Woodlawn Facebook page.
Thank you so much, Councillor Williser, and hopefully most of council will attend and have a scary time. Thank you. Councillor Ford?
Thanks, Your Worship. About a month and a half or so ago, SaskPower was here to tell us about their solar project. Just a reminder to everybody that this week on the 26th and 27th, they're hosting a engagement session with the community, and it's not a set time, like you don't have to have 40 people in the building. It's going to be at the Legion. The 26th is from noon to 7, so it's just drop in, and then the 27th is 9 to 3, and then there's also a QR code if you can't actually make it in person to scan that QR code. And this is your chance to, tell everybody, tell SaskPower how you're feeling, ask questions about it. I know lots of people have a number of questions, so it's your chance to kind of speak up and see what they have to say regarding this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ford. Councillor Cernan? No? Okay. Councillor Frank?
Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to wish a happy Diwali to any of our Sikh and Hindu community members. That starts today, so just as a multicultural community, I just wanted to make sure that was passed along on behalf of City Council.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. City Manager?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to expand on Councillor Ford's comments, this could be a good time for any people interested in what the contractor procurement looks like and how City of Estevan businesses could get involved in that solar project on the construction electrical phase. So we were asked to invite any of those businesses to come out and ask questions as well.
Thank you. That's a very good point. Any of our earth moving companies or anything like that, the installation, this will take up, being 100 megawatts of solar, I believe is the largest in the province. And I think it takes up 6 to 7 quarters of land. Is that correct?
I think at least that.
That's what I heard, at least that. So a quarter is 160 acres. So that will take up a lot of land. So hopefully we'll have lots of interest in that. I mean, we're in favor, obviously, of green energy, wind and solar. And although the battery backup hasn't been perfected, it is green energy, and we're thankful for that. And as far as good base load, we'll continue to work on clean coal technology moving forward, as well as nuclear. So, Councillor Vroba.
And also, was it not this project where we were also encouraging SaskPower to look at their own land that they already have versus trying to take over existing farmland for this project?
Yes, actually, and that's a fair comment. Thank you for bringing that up. Us and the RM did suggest to SaskPower that they use some of the 40-some thousand acres that they have under their own ownership, but you know, they're taking that under advisement. I can't say that they will be doing that, but they did take that under advisement. Thank you. City Clerk, anything you'd like to say tonight?
Nothing.
Just happy Halloween to everybody, okay? City Treasurer?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Nothing? Okay, with that, do we have a motion to move into committee? Thank you. Councillor Cernick, seconded by Councillor Ford. All in favor? Carried. Thank you so much, and good night.